So yeah, we're going to do it a little bit differently, Klaus, than usual, because we have these videos. I'm going to bring up, you know, Phantom Thief and Tastiera and Bellagio Opera and Solar Orions, and we're going to see them and just sort of have our conversation happen. And then if there's other horses that we want to talk about that aren't in the video, we'll button that up at the end, and then we'll get out of here. All right. Coming in 3, 2, 1. Peter Thomas Fornatal back with you. Happy to be presenting a really cool panel. When, you know, we talk about international panels all the time, this show, we're dealing with multiple continents. We're dealing with 4 different countries. This is truly, I usually joke when somebody says something crazy on the airwaves that, you know, you can't get analysis like this just anywhere. But this is truly a segment where you can't get analysis like this just anywhere. And in this segment, we're going to start off by talking about the Japan 2000 Guineas, a.k.a. the Group 1, Grade 1, Satsuki Sho. I'll introduce our panel, and we'll get right into it. First off, the man who's doing double duty on the show, because not only is he appearing as a guest, he's really the content producer. We've got producer Craig in the mix, but our content producer coming to us from Dubai. He periodically appears on In the Money Media and always does a fantastic job helping us with coverage, international and domestic. He is Michael Adolphson. Michael, how are things?
Things are going well. It's the sort of mini lull after the World Cup here, and we're getting ready for all of the big races around the world. So bring it on.
Another returning guest. Always a pleasure having him on these airwaves. Met him at Arizona a couple of years ago, and he comes on to talk with us regularly about the JRA races. He is racing enthusiast, Darley Flying Start graduate, Toshi Onikubo. Toshi, what's going on?
Hi, Pete. Always pleasure to be on this.
Good to have you coming to us from Tokyo. And then we have our 4th country represented, the Great White North, Canada, our man from Woodbine, who's also our other resident JRA expert, Klaus Ebner. Klaus, what's going on?
PTF, how's it going?
Things are good. We're going to do something a little different here. We've got a video segment. People are probably listening to this, and they're not going to care. But if you want to see some tape of the horses we're going to talk about, go over to our YouTube channel, In the Money Media. We're going to start off with a clip that brings together 3 of these runners from the Kyoto News Eye. This is the 1st, 2nd, and 4th finishers from February 12th, as producer Craig rolls the tape for us over there. And we'll start by talking about Phantom Thief. Klaus, I'll bring you in first to give your thoughts on Phantom Thief and how this runner fits in the Japan 2000 Guineas, which is happening Saturday night into Sunday morning here in the United States.
Yeah, so Phantom Thief, obviously, in my opinion, be one of the favorites in the race. You know, he's still fairly green, if you will. I know in this race here, you know, Lemaire tried to settle him early, but then he just took off towards the front. So he was very headstrong early. But then again, he got the job done over Touchwood and others that are in here. You know, we had a 4th in the Grade 1 Hopeful Stakes at this distance and track. So again, I think there's things to like about him, and I also think that he'd be one of the favorites. Of note for Phantom Thief is he had a pretty stellar workout coming into this race. So definitely one to watch.
Interesting. Michael, I'd love your thoughts as we watch the gallop out here on the YouTube channel.
I mean, the market's really supporting him right now. I think he's 3.5 to 1. And, you know, he's a bit of the buzz horse. Lemaire definitely brings the price down a little bit on him. The one thing I didn't really love about the prep is there wasn't a lot of pace there, and the horses up front stuck around a little bit longer than I would have expected, at least the pace setter did. And, you know, I don't think there was – I think the horse that finished 4th behind him, Tastiera, who we'll get on in a moment, I think he's a little bit better than that performance, and he's coming along. He's a horse that I think is pretty progressive, and unlike Phantom Thief, he's had a race in between. So I feel like it's definitely a race where the favorite and the winner is not the only horse to take out of it.
Interesting. Toshi, before we get on to the Tastiera clip, what are your thoughts on Phantom Thief on Sunday?
You know, he got the stall 7, which is not too bad, you know, considering Nakayama, you know, 2,000 meter, and with Lumel, yeah, he got fair chance and he got plenty speed to sit on front. Yeah, and it's, as Michael said, you know, Tastiera got too much to do in that race, so it's too early to say, you know, Phantom Thief is definitely better than Tastiera.
Let's take a look at the Deep Impact Kinen here, where we have, we want our eyes particularly on the first, third, and fourth finishers from March 5th. This was Tastiera's return to the races as Craig plays it for us in the window. Michael, I'm going to let you lead on this one. It feels like this might be a way that you're leaning in this spot.
I mean, I'm definitely going to use him. I don't. We'll get to my selection later on, but there was a moment where I was going to pick him no matter what, because I just have so much respect for these connections. And obviously the trainer has won this race, what, 5 or 6 years ago. To me, this is a horse that's moving in the right direction. He obviously loves the track. Obviously it's going to be another step up in form here. He has to produce, but you know, the horse that finished right behind him that day and Top Knife also ran a really great race over course and distance in the Hopeful. So I don't think that this is bad form at all. This is a progressive horse, and I just don't see him out of the top 3 in this race.
All right, pretty strong shout there. Toshi, you mentioned also not loving the trip to back. How do you rate this one's chances going forward?
You know, Tastiera worked well, you know, this week, and he got plenty chance, but unfortunately he drawn number 14, so it will be a big ask. And this is open field this year. We don't get any 2 years of grade 1 winner, so barrier draw, pace, etc. at Nakayama 2,000 meter, it's very tricky course. So I think it's a big ask for Tastiera this time.
Klaus, where do you break the tie for us on this one? Are we definitely on the board, or are we asking too much?
Yeah, I don't know about the other guys, but for me, I've started more and more now in terms of watching the Satsuki Sho, leading towards horses who prep in January, February for this race, as opposed to those who race in March. You know, those that have traditionally run in the spring stakes or the Yayoi Show, whatever we want to call it, the Deep Impact Keenan. Traditionally, just recently, at least haven't performed that well. And again, those that have prepped, you know, with more time in between starts have done a lot better. So, you know, I'm not saying he's a bad race. You know, he's only making his 4th career start, so obviously there should be room for improvement. But it's just, you know, yeah, if anything, he'll probably be in the bottom end of my tickets more than anything else.
A bunch more contenders come out of the Bellagio, or Bellagio Opera is one of the bunch of contenders that come out of the spring stakes, where again we have the top 4 finishers coming back here. This was one of the March preps, Klaus, so I'll keep it with you. I'm guessing based on that prejudice that you had, that none of these runners we're seeing coming out of the spring stakes are necessarily going to be ones that you're keying in here.
I did actually really like Bellagio Opera based on the last result. I know I'm just kind of contradicting what I just said just now in regards to that. Yeah. But you know, for me, he was very green in the last start. You'll see him kind of come around the turn. He's just looks to me like he was all over the place in terms of trying to make that late run. You know, he kind of gathered himself up and then, you know, inhaled the field. So, you know, I was pretty impressed with the performance. But again, the as Toshi mentioned before, that draw doesn't know favorites. You know, he's gonna come with a late run, but just again, yeah, I wasn't a fan of him after that draw, especially.
What do you think of this as a prep, Toshi? Potentially a key piece of form, or horses to potentially spin in this spot?
I mean, Bellagio Opera was very impressive win, but I believe it was questionable field, and with this draw, I wouldn't go with him.
Michael, what about the winner or any of the others as horses that might be on some of your tickets?
I mean, I think the winner is a proper horse, but I think this is the weakest of the major preps. And to me, it was basically like a fire sale to get into the Guineas. You know, these horses were just trying their best to make it into the field at this point in the last second. So, you know, I also look at the market, and you look at the other 3 horses that finished right behind him and how they're being supported in the market in this race, and they're being absolutely dismissed. Even the horse was second to him, Ho-Oh Biscuits, which is an amazing name. He's only 16. He's fluctuating between 14 and 20, 16s mostly. And to me, there's just not a lot of respect for this race, and rightfully so. I mean, he's going to have to step it up again and prove that this wasn't that this was just another step for him in the right direction. And I think that there's a bit of a tiny bit of a possible monster waiting in the wake.
Mind Your Biscuits is a sire who's going to lead to some pretty funny names, and some that only make sense in the United States and some that only make sense in England. So we'll see how that develops over time. But that is a good one. That is a good one for sure. I want to watch one more piece of tape for a horse that's catching a lot of money and interest. We'll watch the tape of the Keisi Hai back from January 15th. And Michael, we'll have you lead off the discussion on this runner.
This horse really catches the eye. Just seems like a proper horse, and I don't know if anything has happened to him in the meantime. And the reason, and he hasn't done anything since this race in January. But to me, it looks like he's done enough, and they're just saving him for the Triple Crown at this point. They want a proper horse. They know he's a proper horse. He kind of blows the turn here, very green. But the way he finishes, this is when I look at proper Japanese horses, this is the kind of performance I like to see going into a classic race.
This is quickening and finishing stuff that we see from Sol Orions there, looking like 11-2 with bookies right now. Klaus, is this the kind of runner you were talking about that in recent years you've been leaning to, ones that were sort of flash talent but have been put away for this test?
Yeah, 100%. So, you know, to echo what Michael was saying there in regards to Sol Orions. Yeah, he's my horse. They are asking a lot of him. In terms of just getting ready for this event, but again, he's by Kidissan Black, who's really the hot sire right now. He's really almost I guess I'll call him a 3/4 brother to the very talented racehorse Vandegaard. So the bloodlines are there. Again, a stellar workout coming to this event. I think it was 11.2 seconds coming into this, and I think he actually worked alongside of Sodashi in his last work actually. So it may be too much too soon for him. That's nothing I can say about him. He reminds me of Equinox last year being also by Kidissan Black. So it may be too much too soon, but if not this race, then yeah, he may be the actual Derby champ in my opinion.
Definitely a runner to keep an eye on. Toshi, where do you stand on this one?
Yeah, Sol Orions, he's so impressive in the Grade 3, the race just we watched. But he's green and only raced twice. And, as Michael said, it's off 3 months and running the highest class of the racing this weekend. It's a bit questionable. And for me, number 5, Freem Foxy, half brother to dual Grade 1 winner Deirdre. So he's himself is Grade 3 winner, and team up with Damian Lane. He got plenty speed, worked well, drawn well in stall 5. I think he got very good chance this weekend.
Interesting. You anticipated my next question. I was going to hold everybody's feet to the fire for a selection as we go around the horn one more time. Klaus, where are you ultimately leaning in this spot? And it can be a horse or it can be a particular bet you're looking forward to making. Of course, we'll put in the plug now. The American pools for JRA races run through Woodbine. We have our own B pools. We're not betting into the main pool, but there's still some terrific wagering opportunities for those who are staying up late Saturday night into Sunday morning. What kind of tickets do you envision yourself putting in, Klaus?
Yeah, most of my tickets will just revolve around Sol Orions and, as Toshi mentioned, Freem Foxy. So those are the two for me. I just will be playing all of my, vertical pools all around them, as well as some of the horizontals too.
Michael, what's your final answer? And do you have a particular wagering approach for this race? I know you always like the tasty long shot each way as well.
I mean, I tried to in this race, but I think Sol Orions is the horse to beat. I do think he's actually an interesting play if you can play a future on him in the Tokyo Yushin and the Japanese Derby, because I feel like that's the ultimate goal with this horse, obviously. And he looks like a proper 12 furlong horse the way he travels. So if you can get, because I feel like after this race, you might not get the price that you'll get afterwards. I mean, you might not get the price you prefer. So it might be a good future wager in the Japanese Derby on him. And I think he's probably good enough to win this. If I'm going to throw anything in as like a big priced each way, Then on Touchdown has a chance to pick up a piece here. Not a bad horse. And Yuga Kawada does things that shock me all the time with his ability. So I wouldn't be shocked if he's in the top 3.
Terrific stuff, team. If you're watching this video, make sure you stay tuned for another video that will be up soon with this same crew going over the Japanese contingent for this year's Kentucky Derby. If you're listening, we'll be back right after this.